Buenas noches from beautiful Barrio Huanuca in Matagalpa, Nicaragua. It is currently running on 8:23 p.m. on a Tuesday, May the 20th, and I am on 18 and a half hours running on empty. So, last episode you saw that I got a little to no announcement that the Migracion interview was occurring in my apartamento. When? Well, I got the phone call yesterday that I needed to come down and pick up my Cedula. So, luckily for me, it's Tuesday. Class had already been suspended for the day, and I got up at 2 o'clock in the morning to have a cab pick me up at 3:30 in the morning so I could be at the southern bus terminal, Cotransur, before 4 a.m. to take the 4:30 express bus that should only take 2 hours, get me to Managua by 6:30, a half-hour cab to Migracion by 7-ish, and they open at 7:30. Not exact, but that's okay. So, cabbie got here on time, great guy. I have a second cabbie now listed in my phone for reference, and I already know his work schedule. He pretty much works dark 30, like 3 a.m. until 1 in the afternoon. The other guy I have on retainer works pretty much 10 in the morning until about 6, 7 in the evening. So I've got a good bulk of the day covered between two dedicated drivers that may be able to take me in the future. Fast forward. So we get to the bus station. It's 10 minutes to 4. Now, I know from the schedule posted there is a regular bus which takes 3 hours. It makes a stop everywhere along the way that leaves at 4 o'clock, and the express bus leaves at 4:30. I'm walking up to the gate. Guard opens it, and I said, "Espresso to Managua," and he said, "Si, Quattro Trente," so 4:30, which confirms what I thought I already knew. I walked over where I was before, just the week before, 2 weeks before, and the ticket booth was closed. It's 4 o'clock. I'm watching the 4 o'clock bus leave 10 minutes early. Didn't try to flag that down because it was going to get there around 7-ish. Still have the 7:30 cab, and I didn't want to have my knees buried into the back of the seat of the school bus. So I looked over and I see once again two buses labeled Express Managua, and we're in Matagalpa. One of them is completely deactivated, not running, nobody's present, and the other one is running, a driver is prepping, and people are starting to board. So I asked the driver, "Express to Managua?" And he said, "Si." So I got on board. I get on board and realize it is not one of the charter buses. It is a school bus, and it's got very limited leg space. So initially, I was able to sit bow-legged and not have as much of a problem. But this bus did wind up stopping at every bus stop on the way. It did get extremely full. They don't just fill the seats, they have people standing in the aisles to the point where you may have 40 plus people standing. So it's very cramped in space. So we were getting filled. I was getting tired. I'm trying to stay awake for the ride, and a guy decided to sit next to me, and now I've got my knees crammed into the seat in front of me, which I didn't notice initially, but my right knee, which is titanium, is now lodged into the back of the seat against a metal brace, and that's basically bone on bone meets metal on metal with a little skin in the middle. It punctured a hole in the upholstery of my knee, pushing up against the back of the seat, and every time we hit a bump, my knee moved against it, and it started ripping a hole in my jeans and cutting a small hole in my leg, which wasn't fun for the 3-hour cruise. We're not on Gilligan's Island, but yeah, it's a 3-hour cruise. Finally, it got a little bit of leg space, but it was a long, drawn-out ride. It was, again, 100 cord, so this is the second time that the regular buses are supposed to be 85 and the express bus is supposed to be 105. It was 100. So we get to the main bus terminal. So we left at 20 after 4. We left 10 minutes early, and we got there at a little after 7. So 2.5 hour drive instead of 3 hour drive, not a 2 hour drive. And there is construction going on, but not in that immediate area to get to the bus terminal. Bus terminal is just busy, period. We got to the bus terminal. I was going to call an in driver, which is like Uber, which would have meant that I would have walked off the property because those drivers are not allowed on the property because there are city taxis there, kind of like medallion holders. So I got off the bus and it's taxi, 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 taxi. And I was like, you know what? I know better than to take the city taxis from the airport. I got gringoed my first day in country, and that's kind of to be expected at the airport. But since these guys are here, let me go ahead and try doing the taxi from the bus terminal. They're in and out of here all day long. So, to my surprise, I get escorted over to a cab, and there's already a guy in the front passenger seat. I get in behind him, which means we've got room for one more person. And then the taxi driver disappeared. For 20 minutes, the taxi driver disappeared. Finally, he brings a woman on board to be the next customer. So now we got 3 people. Let's go. No, he's waiting to get a 4th person. 3 people in the back of a little bitty tiny Kia. And we've been sitting for a half hour. And it's a half-hour drive in traffic to go 6 kilometers. Not 4 miles. And there's construction in between. So there is a new overpass being built through Managua that's impacting traffic dramatically. We finally go and leave. Now, mind you, had I taken the in-drive, the last time I did, both ways, it was 160-ish Cordoba with tip, so 180-ish, which is less than $6. I looked online at the in-drive, and I saw that they were pushing over 200 this morning. And I said, oh, well, increased traffic and the construction, so it fluctuates the price a little. But since we waited to fill his car like one of the short buses that runs through Leon, my expectation, my hope, my assumption was that this would be a discounted fare since we have several people all going to the same place. Well, first off, we weren't all going to the same place. We were going in a general direction away from the bus terminal. Wound up dropping off 2 of the guys. Finally, the woman and myself in the back seat were the last ones, and we were both going to Migracion. And this was the scariest ride I've been in Nicaragua ever. I had very little to hold on to, and my knees were buried into the back of that seat because, again, it's a small car. I'm not tall. I'm 5'10". I'm average height. So we finally get to our destination. It took an hour to get where it should be a half hour, and there was a good 15 minutes of that being delays, dropping the other 2 guys off, not at my destination, where I was quoted 300 cord for the ride. About a 50% overcharge with taking twice as long. So I did this on pretty much a tester's behalf. This was my final time of ever using a City of Managua cab. When you land, you can already have the in-drive app installed. When you land, do not use a Managua cab under any situation. If you call an in-driver and it happens to be a cabbie that's also doing in-drive, he has to honor the agreed price on the app. Whatever. I'm glad I brought extra money. So I finally get to Migracion. I have money in hand. I also had to have printed 2 separate airline reservations for one-way tickets back to the U.S. In the event I was to be booted out. I have to show how much it would cost to pay for a plane ticket, and I had to deposit a guarantee of that amount. So They wouldn't allow Spirit Airlines with a compadre of mine. And when he showed them low-cost fares back to Miami, because most of the fares one way are very low cost, they were too low of money. So you needed to spend over $400. So I had to be creative, and I had to find rides at first class, business class, or with a 6-hour layover in Houston to get over the $400 threshold. Print 2 of those. I had those printed. I had the so it came out to $455 was the high quote, so I had the $460 and change, but I had $460 to deposit. The only time I'll ever see that money is if I was to be evicted from the country. Then they would give me that money back, and I'd be required to use it for a plane ticket. So it's a one-time small investment, $460 that I should hopefully never see. Then the actual 1-year Cedula cost was $130, not the $135 they quoted me, not the $155 on paperwork, $130 for the year. So here's how it played. I already know where to go. I go to the gate, I show them my passport, I go into the front information desk, I explain to them, received the phone call. I had this already pre-typed on my Google Translator, and I'm speaking it as I'm reading it to them, as I'm showing it to them, follow the bouncing ball. Received the phone call that my interview was complete. I need to pick up my Cedula and pay for it. So I get a ticket number, and there was a different piece of paper they put inside my passport last visit in lieu of the normal tourist visa, which is good for 90 days. That piece of paper was removed from the passport and handed to a different window. So I get my number, and almost instantly it was time to go in, and it's right back to the same teller at window 28. I'm going to tell you right now, there's more than likely, if you're from the U.S. and you're filing for a Cedula under the Pensionado or the Rentista, here's how this should go. Your very first window should be window 26, who you'll see once. You'll then go over to the teller window, pay the $3 for the application fee to fill out the form. If you're smart and already have your answers ahead of time, because we've already shared that form, so you can pre-answer that in Spanish, you could potentially sit there, fill out the form if you have all your other documents done, and save you a second visit. Most of us are going to do a second visit. So you would see window 26 and pay $3 US, can't pay it in cord, for the application form, fill that out. Your potentially second visit, you would then go and take a number and wait, and you're going to be seen by window 28. Window 28 is the one I erroneously waited for the first time for 3.5 hours, found out I was on the wrong line. They apologized. They put me back to window 26, who then re-instructed me to go back to window 28, and then I had to go home because I didn't have all the documents that we didn't know about, that my attorney took care of on the fly the next morning. So today, I'm waiting for I have my number in hand, and I get called to go to window 28, and she asked for the piece of paper that had been in my passport that went 2 windows down. I was almost in the wrong line again, but it was quickly resolved. So Julia is the representative that works window 28. If you pull up the TN8 channel interview from last year about immigration, she's the one you see in the photo. She's a rock star. I mean, she's the one that had to give me the bearer of bad news, but she's also the one that's put up with me and has had to see me on and on and on and on. So she's absolutely great. So I told her today I was bragging on her on the YouTube channel. I was a former government employee of 20 years. I get how you don't get appreciated. People only complain. I appreciate the assistance. She got me from point A to point Z. So I get called in there. She says, no, the form went over there. I need to go back outside and wait. So that's the first time waiting. I get called back in, and she asked to see the 2 airline reservations. I give her both the airline reservations. She tells me to go outside and have a seat while she completes a receipt. So then I get called back in again, and I get the receipt, and it shows the dollar amount for the $460 that I need to pay. Go over to the middle windows, pay that in cash. Did that. They give me multiple copies from a multi-paged form. It's carboned form. And I get 2 copies of the receipt for the $460, That's the deposit in kind. And I get 2 receipts for the $130 application fee for 1 year of temporary residency. Instructed to go back to window 28 and see Julia again. So this is like my 3rd or 4th time seeing Julia this morning. So I bring her those documents, and she then tells me that I need to go get a photocopy of these, which I'm like, these were all carbon copies. Why do I need a... Okay, whatever. I need photocopies. Where do I get photocopies? She says, well, outside here. And she pointed out the door. What I didn't understand, and I asked 2 other employees, which turned into 3 other employees, what she meant to say is I have to leave the building, go outside the gate, and get copies. So when you go outside the gate, there's a whole line of little street vendors immediately outside the door. The very closest one is making photocopies and selling juice. Didn't stick around for the juice. What scared me was they're holding on to my passport, and you have to show your passport to get in and out the gate. So when I got over to the guards and I asked where to get the photocopies, they pointed over in the corner, and lo and behold, right there on the sidewalk. Well, they have people busking the corner, and the woman saw the copies in my hand, so she walked me right over to the first desk. It was 10 cord, which is under $3 to get the 2 photocopies I needed. So I get my 2 photocopies. I go back to the guard. The guard lets me back in. I go back in. I see Julia for the 5th or 6th time, and I hand in the photocopy, and then I'm told to go back outside and have a seat, which I did. Then I came back in. Now this is like the 7th time I've seen her. I think it's something. I lost. It was all a track. I lost all track. I had to get a picture taken, which again is strange because you had to give multiple passport photos to Migracion for part of the application fee. I don't know what they do with those pictures because they took a digital camera photo for the ID card. So I did the picture, told to go back outside and wait. Waited, and I finally got called by window 30. Window 30 hands you your passport and your cedula. So I would show you my cedula, but it will get dropped off of YouTube by showing a photo ID because that could be identity theft. They don't know it's yours. But my photo obviously is me or a really good impersonator. 3.5 hours. Had I gotten there a little early, maybe I would have trimmed a half hour off. But plan on if you do this smartly, 1 visit with your answers in hand to fill out the application form and have all that done, then you would come back on a second one after the interview. So the least amount of times you're going to go to Migracion in Managua is 2 times. 1 time to initiate the application and 1 time post-interview when you're told you're approved and you need to pick up your ID card. So at this point, it is now 3.5 hours in. I got there at almost 8:30. Now it's about 10:50. And I go out this time, and I call an InDrive, and there instantly, and he races through town, and I looked on, and I have a website for the actual legitimate bus route, not just the bus route for Managua. This company is called Gobanto, and they service bus routes through several Latin American countries in Central and South America. I'm going to have the link posted in the notes for this episode. I've already shared it through our WhatsApp group. And you punch in which country you're in, you punch in which city you're leaving from, and what city you want to ride to, and it shows you all the bus routes to include the express routes, highlighted in red, which supposedly cost more, but are an hour faster. And it shows all the legitimate route times. So the first thing I noticed was there is no 4:30 express leaving Matagalpa for Managua, despite the fact that I've asked multiple employees there, have read off the website, read off of other website notes from local businesses who claim to be the most accurate information. I now have gone to the source. The earliest express bus out of Matagalpa to Managua is 5:30 in the morning, which means the earliest you could get there is 7:30 you still have a half-hour cab ride plus now more with the construction traffic to get to Migracion that opens at 7:30. You're better off taking the earlier version like I've done twice now for a 3-hour ride to potentially get there at 7 to trim that half hour. If you get there an hour after they open, you will have often a dramatic additional wait. Your best advice from everybody is they open at 7:30, be there at 7:30, which means you need at least a half-hour cab ride, which means you got to be at the bus terminal in Managua by 7, which means if you're leaving Matagalpa, you need to be on at least the 4 o'clock bus, if not earlier. So, the second driver back, the in driver, quotes me an appropriate price of 182 cord. It's about 20 more than the last time, whatever. Got me there safely and got me to the bus terminal at 11:20. There's an 11:30 express. Winning. Because if I don't take the 11:30 express, the regular bus routes go on the hour, and the next express isn't until 1:30 in the afternoon. And I really didn't want to sit at the bus terminal for 2 hours to try to save an hour of what's a 2 to 3 hour ride. So I get on at 11:20. I get on the express bus to Matagalpa. It is not a former charter bus. It was once again $100. It didn't make every stop along the way on the way back, but it started making stops once we got over the halfway mark to Sabaco, and they delivered parcels at bus stops where people were waiting for them. So there are a lot of third-party carriers that will ship your Amazon to you, and many of them will offer you free shipping on Monday, Wednesdays, Friday. Today was Tuesday. But they'll offer you free shipping Monday, Wednesday, Friday if you do it on the bus. And then it gets strapped to the roof or inside a bus. And then you have to be at your local bus station for when it gets there. And hopefully you know which bus accurately has it, or you're sitting at the bus station all day. So it was a faster bus, not the fastest bus, not the slowest bus. It was a 2.5 hour ride back. Now, in the meantime of all that happening, I had received notification on my first Amazon order that I had placed. I placed it through having it delivered in Miami area to Envios Fast Track, one of the third-party carriers. I did this one by airmail, which is supposed to only take a few days. It did take less than a week. And you have the option of picking it up at the bus terminal. You have the option of picking it up in Managua at their headquarters, or you have the option of coordinating delivery to Cargo Trans, another third-party carrier in the region, who can then deliver to your door. I live 4 blocks from the Cargo Trans office. The box in question is about this big and weighs 4 pounds. I said I will happily have it sent to the Cargo Trans office. So I was looking at $7 a pound, 4 pounds, $28, for it to be airmailed to me in less than a week. Having it brought to the Cargo Trans office, which saves me a half-hour walk to the Southern Bus Terminal, and I don't know how long I'd be waiting for it. And now I'll only do a 4-block walk. Cost me an extra $1 per pound, so I'm paying $32 to get something shipped by air in less than a week to me. So I got the confirmation that it was in Managua. They wanted to know how I wanted it dispersed. They already saw the notes that I wanted it sent to Matagalpa, and I wanted it to Cargo Trans. Well, now I have to pay them. So they don't do credit card. You have to do a pay fee service, kind of like a Google Pay and stuff. You can pay in cord. You can pay in dollars. They send you several different bank routing numbers that you can use and an email that will be used to pay this bill. It looks like Western Union, but it's far simpler, and it's end-to-end encryption, and it's instant. So I go in, and I've got $40 US to pay $32.08, and found out. Oh, and by the way, so you can either go to the banks, which are hours long waits at the banks to be seen, or you can pay at some of the convenience stores. So there's Super Express. So Super Express looks like a 7-Eleven AM PM kind of thing, and they've got one cashier window dedicated just for bill paying, like you would see it dedicated for like a Western Union corner. You show them your information, you show them the account that you need it sent to, the email to confirm who it is, the dollar amount. Found out that at least this Super Express wouldn't allow me to use dollars. Luckily, I had enough cord in my pocket, which was like 1,300 cord and change, to cover the spread. Paid them, got a receipt, went outside, sent an email to Envios Fast Track that the transaction was complete. I got a text follow-up saying, hey, can you send me the information? So I took a picture of the receipt, sent it to them. They now have confirmation of the routing number, transaction number, and all that. And I'm expecting the delivery to go from Managua to Matagalpa tomorrow to the local cargo trans. And at some point in time tomorrow, I should be able to pick it up from there and be done and then walk 4 blocks home. So I have a second box that I ordered from Amazon, which has several items in it that were not as expensive, that I was willing to put on ship. So Maritime was supposed to take approximately a month. It's been out to sea for about 4 days. I've also asked for that box. It's 13 pounds to also go to Cargo Trans. We'll do the same thing. Now you already have the contact information. I know where I can make the payments. I have the payment information of who's getting what. I have a ballpark of how much I'm going to pay. That's only $3 a pound, so I'm expecting it to be about $40 plus the add-on for Cargo Trans. So maybe $50 to get a much larger box delivered 4 blocks from here. So I took care of that while I was walking to Brooklyn Cafe. At this point, we are now looking at 1:30 in the afternoon. I'd been up since 2:30 in the morning. No coffee, no caffeine, no food, just 3 liters of water on my back and my Camelback, and I'm starting to get a headache from the lack of the caffeine and the change in elevation and going down to Managua and back. So I just need caffeine and a little bit of food and a juice to get me going. I get to Brooklyn. I ordered an espresso, I ordered a juice, I ordered a veggie quesadilla, and my phone starts ringing with an unknown number from Nicaragua, and they didn't leave a voicemail, and they didn't send text. So I finally answered the last time, and I couldn't understand a word the guy was saying. He was speaking so quick. Anybody who's not familiar with a second language will always say that other people are speaking too quickly for him. I found one of the waitresses there that could listen to what he was saying, and it was my television that I had ordered. I'd ordered through a local company, La Curacao, who owns the local Radio Shacks. Yes, we have Radio Shack down here. And I had ordered a 50-inch Samsung and paid $12 to have it delivered because it wasn't going to fit on my back. And without notice, it was going to be delivered today. So they called, and they were like, the message I was getting through the waitress was, oh, they're outside your apartment right now wanting to deliver. And I just ordered my food and just ordered my coffee and just ordered my drink. And this is kind of like how the appointment for the in-home interview went. As soon as I got to Brooklyn Cafe, I had to leave. So I'm quickly paying my bill, told them to make the sandwich and the juice to go, slammed the espresso. Everybody's eyes lit up because they're not used to seeing people drink large amounts of caffeine quickly. Speed walk back to the apartment. On further conversation, they said, okay, well, once you get to the apartment, let us know. And I said, well, I'll be there in 30 minutes. So I got there probably at 25 minutes, and I called them back, and they said, well, it'll be another 20 minutes. So enough time to come in here, turn the fan on, decompress, put my bags down a little bit, go downstairs and wait for them. Waited for them, brought them in, got the TV delivered, got the TV set up, and realized that my food that I finally got a chance to eat an hour and a half after I bought was not going to suffice. So I've been doing a little maintenance around here, got the TV set up, and went back downstairs to my asado and got an actual dinner with some barbecue pork nachos and some chalupas. And that's it. We're coming up on 9 p.m. here. Again, I've been up for almost 18 hours, starting to lose steam, but wanted to give you the results of the Cedula. So, again, if you can have all of your documents on the laundry list that we've already shared, and you already have the answers pre-written down in Spanish of how you're going to fill out the application, you could potentially, in one visit to Migracion, have everything set up for your in-home interview, which you don't know when it's going to happen. Once the in-home interview is done, you're waiting for another phone call to go do the second required visit, and that's to actually pick up the Cedula. I did mine from application submission to in-home interview to picking up Cedula in less than 2 weeks. I think that is the new land speed record. I went in there on the 5th, only got the form, came back on the 7th, did the submission, just did the interview last Friday, last Friday, it's a blur now, and then got notified yesterday that I need to come down to get the Cedula, which was today, and I'm done. So the card is good for 6 months. I have to have the card reissued in November, and then next May I have to reapply and get a reissue. So that'll be the standard operating procedure going forward. But again, I wanted to also share the bus route. I'll have that on there. That made things a lot easier, knowing exactly when those buses are going from city to city. There is no listing for the internal city buses. There's no route posted. It's strange, and those buses are really packed. I am more than happy to use the public transportation system at less than $3 for 2-hour drives from city to city. I just have to be cautious of which bus I'm getting on, because I can't have my knees into the back of the chairs, because again, these are school buses. They were designed for little kids to sit in, and I'm taller than many, not all. I'm a little bigger than most, but not all. But 3 hours cramped on the bus is it's a financial saver. So a $3 ride versus paying $65, $70 for a private driver. Entirely up to you. It's nice to have options. But that is the recap. I have a Cedula. My last item on the list is just learning my Spanish. And that's my update for you. We're just over 30 minutes on it. I want to, again, thank the subscribers. Thank you for watching. Please hit the like. Please hit the share. Please subscribe. Refer a friend. Let people know. I have had an enormous amount of viewers for the veteran-centric post that I did, and it felt good because, again, I used to do it for a living, and without being a braggart, I was very good at what I did. I was one of the top 5 people in the state of Florida doing that job. They had once tasked me with giving Skype classes to the NASA campuses. So I had Houston on one screen and I had Cape Canaveral on the other. I was doing transition briefings for field officers, counseling, employment counseling, a colonel on whether or not she was going to accept her 1-star general position versus following up with a medical retirement. I worked directly with Tier 1 operators that were on downtime doing administrative stuff, with injuries that weren't fully disclosed, with non-disclosure agreements signed about where and when they were at. I did a lot in the way of benefits and compensation. It was a very rewarding job, but I put too much of myself into it and burned out in the process. But again, I'm really happy to see the veteran information one. By all means, look back. There's information on the administrative process of the documents stateside. There's information on the processes here. Again, that recap, get all your U.S. documents done, come here as a tourist, find out where you want to live, sign the 1-year lease, then plan on 2 weeks in Managua to take care of the physical, the background check, getting those documents notarized, and your first, maybe your second visit to Migracion. Maybe you do it in 2 weeks. There is no rhyme to reason of how long the residency program takes, because there's people that have gone years and haven't been seen. I did it in under 2 weeks because I had all my documents done ahead of time and I exceeded the financials needed. But with that, again, I wish you all well. And until next episode, adios.